Coming up today on Locked On Texas Tech, still shopping for size. Is Federiko still in play or another option to consider? And why is it even a question as to whether we're cooking or crumbling in the portal?
You are Locked On Texas Tech, your daily podcast on the Texas Tech Red Raiders. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Great to be with you again on Locked On Texas Tech on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, always free and available on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts. And thanks as always for making us your first listen. Today's episode brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money and use our code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. With the only Chris Level, I'm Casey Cowan. Chris, great to be back with you. And on today's episode, we're going to get to, a different perspective on the portal efforts thus far from Grant McCasland and the Red Raider men's basketball program, some involving some concern. I'll explain in just a moment. Also want to get to essentially what is at the forefront right now. We talked about it a couple of episodes ago as we enter this week. What's highest on the priority list? Are we talking ball handlers? Are we talking size? So we'll discuss some size shopping and also a question as to whether or not Federiko is still in play. And if so, how badly do we actually want him to remain in play for the Red Raiders? But Chris, as we kick off the conversation, it seems like that is on the front burner right now, looking for some size, and I guess even in the form of a visit this week or weekend from somebody who's got some of that. So what can you fill in on the size shopping front?
Yeah, it's pretty clear that you still need some size. I think that we, in one of the last shows we did, I think you need a capable starter type center. Not that you're going to ask this player to start or not that he is going to start, but I think that he would be able to or play, the Federiko role of the, 18 to 25 minutes, depending on the matchup and foul trouble and all the things. This was your first indication, I guess it was last week. It would have been last like Tuesday, Wednesday-ish. We had talked about Federiko a little bit. We kind of felt like maybe he's back in the fold and all those things. And then when you start to hear whispers that maybe not, and they had reached out to, I'd mentioned to you, Grand Canyon Center. Well, Virginia Commonwealth has a young man by the name of Luke Bamgboye, who is a freshman. He's tall and skinny. He's a rim protector. And he's got 3 years of eligibility left. But when they started, reaching out to some of these folks, I think it was a pretty good indication. I think some were like, "Oh man, we must be going to go really big. We're gonna have multiple bigs." And I think this was an indication that Federiko may be looking for something else, whether it's playing time or finances or whatever, or playing with a teammate or who knows what, as we've discussed. So Luke Bamgboye, I believe, is a very clear option. Now, what is happening is, and I think this is important to note. So, depending on when you consume this, I think that we are now getting close to. Remember kind of how we were operating. Like it's been like what now, 2 weeks. When you're getting close to the court case being settled, and you're like, okay, you need to get your business conducted. You need to. There's a bit of a deadline. We're not exactly sure what that day or time is going to be, but it's nearing, and I think we are now approaching that again. We can roll our eyes and go, it's not going to be a deadline, or that they're not going to rule on that, or they're not going to pass it, whatever. But if you're, and that's fine if you want to chance it, but if you want to operate under these previous set of rules, then I think that you've got some timing that's not necessarily on your side, meaning that if you want to operate under the old set of rules, and front load money or really get creative with things on luring a player, it would behoove you to get that business done this week, maybe even by the end of this week, because I think what we have gathered, what most of the legal experts are suggesting, and I think the way the conferences are operating is that this deadline could be Friday, it could be Monday, but there won't be any sort of grace period. Is not the belief that, okay, I've ruled on this, you've got more days. So I say all that to offer up that something could happen fairly quickly here on a variety of fronts. And it's not just you're needing to find a big guy. It could be football related and finding another guard or whatever else you want to do in every other sport too. But I think that you're trying to, I'm not saying you're trying to speed date or speed this process up, but so with Luke Bamgboye being a key option here for you, if it is finances, if it is playing time, I think this also makes Federiko, because I wouldn't just totally rule him out, but I think that this is the like, hey man, here may be your replacement. You sure you want to? You sure this is what you want to do? Because I mean, in some ways, we could sit here and argue that Bamgboye may be a better fit with more upside. He's a better rim protector, but he also is far less experienced and he's skinnier. And only they would know the basketball fit part of it. Now, Federiko's got the experience. He's got the experience with this staff and this system and this team and all that. But if more money is what you're seeking, it's or more playing time or whatever. I mean, I think that this is a very realistic alternative for Texas Tech. I guess I would say that. So I'm not saying you're going to end up with one of these two, but maybe you're going to end up with one of these two.
Man, thinking about finding a skinnier guy. As a lifelong member of the Skinny Man Club, glad to see us getting more and more opportunities. It's a great era for the skinny man, but that's kind of hard to fathom when it comes to Federiko. But I wanted to ask you about, because I've heard you mention this a couple of times now, the teammate aspect. Is that something that's really factoring in for Federiko? And I know we've had plenty of questions in the YouTube comments or from Matador Mobsters about, like, is it a brother interest because his brother's out there somewhere? Is it a Darion Williams thing? Is that specific, or is that something that you're just including because a lot of different things can be included? First, today's episode brought to you by Monarch Money. Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all the money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it can be easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app, it's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place, so you stop just managing your money and start building wealth. You're going to love the all-in-one convenience. Instead of juggling multiple apps, you can use Monarch to check your finances, track spending, and even plan long-term goals. So take control of your finances with Monarch Money today. Use our code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com and our code LOCKEDONCollege for half off your first year.
Yeah, I think it's the latter. I think a lot of different things could be included. If it's finances, it may not even be like Federiko making a demand. It could be somebody in his camp or somebody that he's listening to going, dude, you're worth a lot more than that. Get yours. I mean, there's no telling.
No.
Yeah. I mean, or is it, man, it's my last year. I was granted this extra year. I want to start. Is it, I don't want to live there anymore. I mean, who knows? Spin the wheel. But I know enough that he's still considering Texas Tech. So which would tell you that it would be fair to suggest that it may not be teammate. It may not be a role, because I think they've already kind of like, hey man, it's the same thing. Like, we just want you to do it a bit better than you did last year or whatever. So maybe it is comes down to finances. I just don't know. I mean, I'm purely speculating.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, so I think
think part of that I know we've included before. So I was curious if there was some traction there. And I don't know why this couldn't be a situation. I don't think, at least as far as the roster's been constructed so far, that it's ruled this out. I don't know why this couldn't be a situation where he progressed into starter minutes. Now, not like a feature 5 or anything along those lines. You've already explained that to us. I mean, and JT Toppin, to an extent, being stretched out, clearly we saw him have success in some of those contexts, but I don't know. I kind of view Federiko as somebody that could step into those types of minutes if that's what he's after. You know, the cash thing to me is a lot stickier conversation, because I do not view him as a high value, monetarily speaking, basketball player. And I'd probably get puckered up pretty tight whenever it started coming to paying Federiko big money, whatever big money actually looks like, given what some other options may look like. But Chris, you've mentioned this before as well, the bird in the hand and the birds in the bush and whatnot, you know, the known quantity, the known locker room guy, the known vibes guy has some value, I guess, in and of itself as well. But the financial aspect would be a little bit of a hang up for me, because while you were a part of a successful team, and I think did have a better season with Texas Tech than what he had previously, you know, obviously indicating some progress as a basketball player. Boy, there are guys that I think you're like, yeah, let's open up the purse. And other guys like, I think that you're doing pretty well to be on a roster like this and have compensation at all. And maybe I'm just becoming a little disenchanted by the $1 million bench rider. I mean, this is like the for me to good college basketball players. And he wasn't necessarily a bench rider, obviously had some significant minutes, but I know you know what I'm saying. There's only so much cash to go around for a roster. And to me, he's way down the list when it comes to high dollar type of guys, whatever that actually looks like.
Yeah, and that's what's tricky about trying to figure out the reasoning on why he got into the portal and maybe why he's still considering Texas Tech and all those things. I just think that I've said this before, that he'll be an option for you until he's not. And there's an intangible there with him that I think is worth something. I think it's up to the pertinent parties to attach a monetary value on what that intangible is worth. No drama, good teammate. He's got size. He's got the experience now in the system, and I think that's worth something because you're not. I mean, it's a player that averaged 5 points, 3 rebounds in conference play. But I think at times, I mean, he was a huge part of your win at Houston, and some other times he battled through some injuries and played through it. And, you know, I think some have argued that others didn't do that, but he did. And, you know, and I think that's worth something too. But that's up to Grant and the powers that be to kind of ultimately decide what the best way to proceed is based on all the factors involved, and only they know those factors. Because I think this is a good. Again, and it's worth pointing out, the same agent and folks representing some players are involved with a lot of these same guys. So, you know, like EY, you know, who is leaving, represented by the same, and then you've got some folks coming in or that are interested in your program. Also, so it's I've said this before, but I just want to make sure people understand. It's not like you've peeved anybody or that it's like, hey man, we're done working with that school. I'm not sending, or I'm not going to help any players go to that school. That's not what's happened. It doesn't appear so. And it's just funny because like Bamgboye, there's always some sort of connection, and you never know what connection is playing a part, whether it's a coach that knows somebody, but this is the same player that went to the same high school as Lamar Washington. Somehow there's a relationship with Donovan Atwell. And whether it's AAU or whether it's high school or whether it's an assistant coach that knows another assistant coach or whatever, or Team USA, like we have seen with some of this factor into on some of the summer stuff for playing for your country or whatever, or another country, as it would be with like Christian Anderson. You never know, but yeah, there's some connections here, and you've got to end up with somebody like this. You just do. And depending on who it is, will depend on how much you ask them to do. But this is the same kind of role you're trying to fill. It's a capable starter that can play 18 to 25 minutes, that is a lob threat, that is somebody that is intelligent, and that is somebody that can play with and without JT Toppin at times. That's what you're looking for. That can give you some sort of rim protection. This is not like Bamgboye is not a scorer. He's not. It's very similar in numbers. He's just younger. I think he's a bit of a shot blocker earlier in his tenure than what Federiko was. But they're still you're looking for grab some boards, protect the rim, catch an alley-oop, be really tall.
Yeah. Check.
Yeah.
All right. We'll see if something's popping off on this front here in the next day, 2 or 3, including it sounds like still a possibility for Federiko's name to be involved in some of this, or maybe it's a new one we're getting accustomed to. Bamgboye. The G is silent. Probably didn't even know there was a G in there. Chris, I want to get to a bigger picture conversation before we get out of here related to these portal efforts so far from Texas Tech basketball, and whether or not we're watching cooking happening or are we watching crumbling happening. Now, I'm going to venture into our YouTube comment section for this portion of the program, which is a risky venture, but I'm feeling dangerous, so I'm going to do it anyway. This generated quite a bit of conversation yesterday within that comment section, and it was a comment that basically expressed a thought that, hey, this class ain't quite resembling the standard that we've gotten used to in a short amount of time. It ain't resembling what we've seen over the last couple of years. Now, the class is not complete, and we don't know what the group is going to look like, but as it stands here now, I'm curious if there's actually some merit to this. The initial comment read something like this, quote, "Our basketball team doing badly in the portal. We lost 3 players we needed, have only brought in 1 singular player within the top 125 in the portal, only 1, and there's essentially none left to pick from. This team is going to be terrible, especially if we can't get D5 back." Now, he goes a little bit into panic and party mode there at the end, so not really so much interested in that. But I am kind of interested in the caliber of what we're seeing sign up. As that conversation went on and on and on and on in the YouTube comments yesterday, there was eventually, I guess, a perspective shared that, hey, we're digging into these, group of 5 leagues or these smaller leagues. I guess there's beef with that. Now, obviously, a response to that would be, hey, our 3 best players last year and over the last 2 years come from New Mexico, Nevada, Grand Canyon. Not exactly the who's who of college basketball. But even more specifically, we are talking in those instances about some conference freshmen of the year. We're also talking about some guys. Remember this talking point? I don't feel like we've said this much this time around. We're talking about guys that had NCAA tournament experience, which once upon a time was a thing I felt like we were saying over and over and over. That is actually kind of missing from this list so far. So what would you make in general of, without this being completed just yet, of this effort as it has compared to some since Grant McCasland has been on campus? Obviously, those teams have turned in great results. But on paper, as we look at a portal or transfer collection, are we cooking or are we crumbling? On paper, as we look at a portal or transfer collection, are we cooking or are we crumbling?
If you're crumbling, why do so many different media outlets have you ranked in the top 10? Would be my question. I think that what I find interesting is, in anybody that suggests otherwise, because you and I were in the same boat, but anybody that just knew Darion Williams, and there's been a lot of revisionist history with Darion Williams. I will say this: there's even been people that are now talking him up that would tell you he couldn't even play at the Division II level, much less for the Wolfpack. That all of a sudden now are like, think he's a bona fide NBA guy.
Do you remember the comment from McCasland talking about, I had a significant player's parent tell me this would be a huge mistake to go after Darion Williams? I think he said that after the season came to an end.
It was in San Francisco. I was there when he said that. Yeah, and but a lot of these same folks said those things, and now they're saying
right.
far different things. let's just use that as an example. I mean, Darion Williams, he averaged 7 and 7 coming in here, and then you bring in a potential same as type player who averages, let me look down here, 13 and basically 7 and more assists per game than Darion Williams. How are you not? I mean, how is that like crumbling or I mean, and you know what Darion Williams shot from a 3-pointer or from a 3-point line as a freshman for the Wolfpack? 35%. All the guys that you've brought in here are 39 or better, and Watts is at 42. This is you can choose to do whatever you want. If you want to say cooking, if you want to say crumbling, to each his own, man. But I mean, this is where you at some point you have to trust your head coach. And I mean, I even had other assistant coaches for other programs that I happen to know. I was asking about Chance McMillan and Darion Williams when Grant first got here, and they were like, "Yeah, they're a piece, which a piece to the puzzle. It's a rotational player. It's this and that, and they've turned into two really, really good players. And I mean, the guy that just cooked you, speaking of cooking, he started out his career at Iona, Walter Clayton Jr. Yeah, that went on to Florida. But again, you have to trust your coach. You have to trust his ability to, because remember when Matt Mooney came here?
Yeah,
Matt Mooney came here. That was a fairly big deal at the time. But Matt Mooney was a terrible defensive player. And he would say out loud as the thing would go along, like, these guys, I thought I knew how to play defense. I thought I knew how to play hard. I didn't. They showed me. So there's at some point your coach gets to coach these guys too.
That's true.
and now having said this, taking up for or like kind of agreeing with the commenter or kind of wondering aloud, I think it's fair to say this team may cost a lot more. This team may be ranked 6th by this outlet or 8th by this outlet or 5th by this outlet in a way too early preseason top 25, even though it's not complete yet. And I think it's fair to wonder aloud, and I've done the same. I can't say that they're better than the group that just left. Can't do it. I mean, I because of what we just saw and how good they were and the different things that they were able to fight through. I can't sit here and say that what you've put together is better. I don't think that's fair or that would be accurate.
I agree.
So it's just yeah.
But it's not time to say.
But that. True. Exactly. You don't have to say that until maybe next March the 15th or something.
And another perspective, I think, was basically the thought, like you're just alluding to there, that, hey, we lost all conference guys. We've got to replace them with all conference guys. But those guys were not all conference when they showed up. I mean, one was a freshman of the year in the previous league, but they didn't show up as first team all Big 12ers or things like that. And that's kind of why I say it's not time yet, because like you already pointed to, the ability to coach them up and help them improve as players.
Nobody thought Christian Anderson would be what Christian Anderson was at this point last year. We didn't even know his name. He wasn't even in the picture. He was committed to Michigan at this point a year ago. And so they are right in that what you've added here it's not what you just saw depart or potentially departing in D5's case, because we're still kind of waiting there. There's rumors about interest in this, rumors about he's trying to get back here, and who knows. But I think Grant has earned that right, man. I mean, you say what you want, and maybe you had higher expectations out there, whoever YouTube commenter, I don't know, but he has earned the right. I mean, the only player that I would say he's brought in from the outside that they were really counting on, that I feel like was a miss, is Devin Cambridge.
Yeah.
And that is because of some injuries, and it just didn't. And I think that kind of compounded some problems. I don't think he was a miss in year one, but the injury that sucks. And then you bring him back, and it didn't really work. But it wasn't a miss initially. But other than that, I mean, I would find a hard time kind of going, yeah, you screwed up with that one. I just don't know if that exists really. And I'm not like counting like Yalaho, because I don't think you were ever really like counting on him. He was just a developmental piece, and let's just see what we got here, that kind of deal. But everybody else was either previously here and you decided to bring them back, but you were trying to keep a nucleus together. But I'd be willing to bet you that while maybe not quite as streaky or can't put on the show like Kerwin did from the 3-point line, I'd be willing to bet you that everybody walking in the door here is a better defender than Kerwin Walton. And I'm not taking a shot there. I'm just stating a fact. Yeah. And the bar there is low, but they could be like substantially better on defense than Kerwin Walton was. And it's not for lack of effort. It's just that's what God gave him, the ability to just make 100 threes in a row in an empty gym, which I've seen some of this at a time. He did not give him the ability to stay in front of big time guys off the dribble and off the bounce more often than not, but most of these guys are plus defenders. So there's that too.
I ain't mad at that. And I guess, if it breaks down one way or another, just to keep it simple for simplicity's sake, it's about benefit of the doubt for the head coach and his staff. I don't know what else it would be. And you don't have to give them that. So if you don't like that, and it's all about, hey, here's a ranking of 125 players, why are they not getting 1 through 5 for our starting lineup? I don't know what to tell you. I don't even look at the rankings. I got to be honest. I don't care about the rankings. There's 50 million outlets that rank all these guys. It depends on who's in the portal at the time and who's not, as to how they could. I just have zero interest in any of it. I guess if you didn't have a coach and it's just some sort of in a vacuum type of process. All right. Well, I would like, 5 or 10 of the top 50. That'd be fantastic. But we do have a coach. I've seen his resume up to his time at Texas Tech. I've now seen his resume in his time at Texas Tech. I don't know any players that have gone the wrong way.
Nope.
Under his tutelage. I don't know any identifications that he made that have been erroneous or errant, because to be honest, even Cambridge, before his injury year one, I'm thinking, hey, I kind of like this guy.
Yes, I agree.
So I was seeing what they saw, but you don't have to extend them that benefit of the doubt if you don't want to. That's totally your choice. Would love to hear, obviously, from you once again in the YouTube comments as to how you feel about our perspectives on it. And the picture's still incomplete, so we'll see what type of prizes may still be lying in wait for us out there. Chris, appreciate the time and the insights as always, man. We will keep heads on a swivel as some of these decisions could be happening, obviously, very soon. So a great reason to get subscribed on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts so you don't miss it whenever it does come to pass. Chris, appreciate the time, man. As always, we'll see you for the next one.
Put it on a shirt, man. In Grant McCasland, I trust.
Yeah. That's the way I feel. I mean, I and it wasn't just blind faith.
No, he's earned that. He's earned that trust.
Yes, I think that's safe.
Yeah, absolutely earned that trust. Okay, well, yeah, I appreciate it. We'll try to keep everybody apprised with what the latest goings on. It could be a fairly active week here based on some of the timing with things, and there's football players that are getting into the portal that Texas Tech is reaching out to as well. This timing thing doesn't just, it's not just a basketball situation, it's football related too. And anyway, the portal deadline for basketball is going to, it ended last night for basketball. So everybody that was in. And so we'll just kind of see if, what happens. So anyway, guns up and keep hope alive, everybody. Or trust the head coach, if you want, or not. Yeah.
Either way, just stay out of the panicking party. That's all we know. All right. For Chris, I'm Casey. Thank you all for being out there. And a big thank you to the everydayers for always being out there. Shout out to the Matador Mob as well. If you're interested in joining that crew, hit the show notes and find the link to a free 14-day trial. That's your direct line to Chris and myself with one-on-one text sent straight to your phone. For Chris, I'm Casey. Thanks for the time, and we hope to see you back for the next round on Locked On Texas Tech.